Hello, my name is Christoph Witte. I'm an IT freelance journalist, and I'm standing here in front of the booth of the International Software Architecture Qualification Board on the OOP conference in Munich. And I want to talk to Kim Nena Duggen. She is curator of the soft skill module of iSAQB, and I will talk with her about soft skills naturally. Kim, why are soft skills so important today?
Well, I think they've always been important, but they seem to be more important for people in a business way also now, which I think is a good thing. The problems most projects have that I see, they're mostly pretty good on the hard skill side, but they often have difficulties in communication. They have remote team setups. They have international contexts. The complexity of projects gets higher. Digitalization makes a lot of things better, but it's also more complicated some of the time. So the soft skill part, where we focus a lot on how do we communicate, what conflicts do we have, is a very important thing.
Okay, and when you say do people have their hard skills, they're pretty good in their hard skills. What is your view on the soft skill education on the teams? Are they as good with soft skills as they are with hard skills, or do they miss things in the soft skill area?
I think it's difficult to say that they miss stuff. I think the question we had earlier about the importance, I think there's a lot of teams or a lot of, especially I would say conservative companies maybe, that aren't very focused on the soft skill part. So this is something we work on. It's also, because you were addressing the training part, it's pretty difficult to train, or it's a different thing to train soft skills than it is to train hard skills, of course. So trainings in soft skill areas are mostly about coaching. It's a lot about doing it yourself, reflecting your own communication, for example. So this is something that we work on, but it's also something that we work on with the iSAQB is to even make sure that companies also focus on the soft skill part at all. We often have a discussion about what's a business thing, so we shouldn't focus on feelings. We should do feelings outside of business, but you can't really do that. I mean, we are there with all our personality.
That's the next question. Soft skills are often associated with feelings, but in the business world, we always taught that to keep out the feelings. What do you say about that?
I hear that a lot. It's still a big thing to say, well, we're on a business side here, let's stick to the facts, let's leave out emotions. I think that's very difficult to do, actually. We all have different communication styles. Mostly when I look at the topic of conflicts in organizations, we often see that they're related to the organizational structure, they're related to the setup of teams, they're related to all kinds of constraints that companies have. And of course, they sometimes lead to conflicts, and conflicts are always highly emotional. So I would say it's not even possible to leave out emotions, but I think it's a very important thing that soft skills isn't about, I don't know, hugging trees or yelling at each other or whatever, but it's just about being constructive, focusing on the right things to discuss, focus on a clear and very focusing on the importance of communication and how people communicate. So it's not the feeling part, but it's more the
But are we because we are more focused, or many companies are more focused on soft skills today, are we nearer to our emotional side in business nowadays, and is that important?
Well, I only have like 10 years of reflection time, so I'm not sure if you're closer than before. But I think it's, I mean, you see it here at the conference as well. You have more talks about leadership, you have talks about mindfulness, you have talks about communication especially. So there seems to be an interest in that area, and it seems to grow closer to technical topics as well. So I think the awareness is higher, yeah.
Okay, and You teach in the soft skill module of iSAQB, you teach communications, moderation, and conflict management. How does that relate to the reality? Is that a common? Are those things common in the real world?
Well, yeah, this was at least the hypothesis we had when we came up with the module. What I see, especially in the role of software architects, is that they often are in the midst of a lot of different stakeholders, so they need to communicate very much. They often face different interests and different stakeholders, so they have a lot of conflict areas at least. And
because they are not always considered as friends from software developers, for instance.
Could be that they are considered as those who force them to do whatever solution they have in mind. But actually, I see there's a big change there as well. If you look at, for example, agile teams, if you look at, I would say, more modern leadership styles, then developers and architects grow closer together. So those aren't the ones which I'm highly concerned about. It's more that you have project leads, you have management, you have customers, and they naturally have different interests. I mean, this is why they have their roles, and it's just more the task, or maybe the difficulty for software architects to moderate all those different interests and to prioritize together. And then also in more modern teams, I would say that it gets more normal that architects and developers design solutions together, and this is also something where
that's not only the controlling part anymore.
And I would hope that teams develop in that area as well. So you have a lot of communication, you have a lot of moderation, where you have all those different interests, and sometimes you have conflicts that you need to take care of. So I think those topics are highly related to the practical life, or to their work life. And the interesting part in those trainings, especially if you have open setups, is that they often communicate about the same conflicts. For example, you often have those different interests. You have the architect standing in the middle of all that. You have the pressure of project time and budget. So it's very interesting to work on those real life topics with the
can you give me an example? Because you said before you can't train that really as a hard skill. For the hard skill, you read, practice, and then you have it. How do you gain a soft skill?
The first part is pretty identical. So we talk about different, for example, methods, or we talk about different communication models which are helpful. Then there's a lot of exercising part of the training, which I think is the most important part, that you try it out yourself. But then
is that a kind of role play then, or how can you?
It could be role plays, but mostly we work on real life examples. So you take one communication situation, for example, and you moderate that, or you take a meeting that you have regularly and you optimize that with the methods we taught, or you analyze your own conflicts, especially if you have a customer training where you have all the customers from one company, then they analyze their own cases, which is way more interesting. But then I think the most important part in soft skill trainings is that you have a lot of reflection. So we reflect on their communication styles. There's a lot of feedback in the training that you get from the trainer, but also from the other participants. And this reflection part is the most interesting transfer to your practical life, right? So this is, I would say, the biggest difference.
So only that what you reflect can you make your own, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. When you are asked by a software architect, what soft skill do I need most? What would you tell him or her?
It's interesting. I would hope I could answer more than one, but well, it's probably all around the communication part. So being open to communicate at all, I think, is the most important part, but also to ask very good questions and be a good listener. The combination of asking good questions and listening to all those different interests, I think, is the most important part that you can work well with.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kim. And thank you for your interest and for your time, and keep in mind that communication is superior. Thank you very much.